It's 1989. Outside New York's Whitney Museum, a group of artists from the Black Emergency Cultural Coalition, led by Benny Andrews, unfurl banners condemning the museum's racist exhibition choices. The air crackles with chants and tension. Their message: art isn't just for galleries, it's a weapon against injustice. But how did artists go from silent creators to fiery activists shaping America's identity? This battle, steeped in decades of sweat and paint, is just getting started. And trust me, their story will twist everything you think you know about art and activism. Before the art world glamorized celebrity, artists risked everything, standing shoulder to shoulder in protests that shaped cultural consciousness. Let's see how collective action redefined art's power. In 1969, Benny Andrews stood with the Black Emergency Cultural Coalition, BECC, outside the Whitney Museum, demanding an end to the exclusion of black artists. Their impassioned protests sent shockwaves through New York's art elite, forcing institutions to confront systemic racism. But Benny wasn't just shouting into the void. He ignited a movement that rippled across galleries and beyond, planting the seed of a new era where activism and art bled into one another, challenging the status quo at every brushstroke. Think of activism in the art world like a jazz ensemble, where each voice and instrument layers into a spontaneous, powerful harmony. Alone, a single trumpeter's call fades. Together, the chorus moves mountains. This collective rhythm amplifies messages, combining protest rallies, political theater, and philanthropy into a relentless beat that can't be ignored, shaping society's narrative one note at a time. That protest outside the Whitney wasn't just noise. It pressured major institutions to reevaluate their collections and narratives, creating space for marginalized voices. This showed that art activism wasn't a fleeting flare, but a strategic campaign that rewrote America's cultural story. It proved artists could do more than create. They could lead social change, turning galleries into battlegrounds for justice with ripples that echo today. From hurried street posters to planting literal wheat fields, artists shifted tactics, blurring lines between art and direct action, public space and private protest. In the gritty streets of 1970s New York, artists used wheat pasting, fast, sticky posters slapped overnight, to flood neighborhoods with political messages. One group plastered walls with images confronting housing injustice and gentrification. They outran city cleanup crews and civil indifference, turning urban decay into a canvas of resistance. This guerrilla tactic challenged not just politics but also what art could be: urgent, accessible, and undeniably public. Imagine public space as a contested chessboard where every poster, mural, or planted seed is a strategic move against entrenched power. The city's walls and parks weren't neutral. They were ideological battlegrounds. Using street art, the artists hijacked common ground, redistributing visual power like smuggling messages to everyday people, forcing debates right in their neighborhoods where no one could ignore them. Later, a collective planted a literal wheat field in Brooklyn, an audacious act transforming blighted land into fertile activism. This wasn't just symbolic. It reclaimed ownership of neglected space while sparking conversations about land rights and sustainability. The act expanded protest from voice to terrain, growing a movement that made people ask, what if activism could be cultivated, harvested, and sustained? The fight for women's space in art wasn't just about galleries. It was inseparable from the larger feminist movement, challenging all systems of oppression. In 1972, the Women's Caucus for Art slammed open the doors of a male-dominated art world. Artists like Judy Chicago and Faith Ringgold held exhibitions exposing sexism and demanding equity. Their work didn't whisper, it shouted. Womanhood deserved visibility, respect, and power. The movement fractured stereotypes by blending craft and conceptual art, sending ripples through feminist and artistic circles alike, making every canvas a battleground for liberation. Picture feminist art as a mirror fractured into countless shards, each reflecting aspects of injustice the movement sought to shatter: sexism, wage gaps, invisibility. These pieces became weapons in a civil rights toolkit, using paint and performance to force society to reckon with inequality. Art wasn't just expression. It was activism wrapped in pigment, breaking taboos and galvanizing lawmakers and audiences alike. The wave of feminist art evolved into intersectionality, a mosaic where race, gender, sexuality, and class collided. This reshaping pushed artists to acknowledge multiple identities and oppressions simultaneously. It transformed activist art from singular stories into layered, complex dialogues, proving that no liberation is true unless it includes everyone's struggle, expanding the movement's power exponentially. AIDS devastated communities, but artists transformed grief and fear into fierce activism that reshaped public awareness and policy. In the 1980s, amid silence and stigma, the activist art group Grand Fury plastered bold slogans on subway ads and billboards in NYC. Their blunt messages, sometimes shocking, always urgent, cut through public denial. With campaigns like Silence Equals Death, they turned the cityscape into a gallery of defiance. This wasn't just art for art's sake. It was survival, a battle cry that made an epidemic visible, impossible to ignore. Think of this art as emotional medicine, a way society could see, feel, and empathize with those suffering from AIDS rather than turning away. The visceral visuals pierced apathy, personalizing a crisis abstract news reports often hid. This humanization galvanized empathy, making the epidemic a shared concern, not a marginalized issue relegated to the shadows. These campaigns mattered. By shaking public consciousness, they pushed governments to fund research and improve healthcare access. The shift from stigma to solidarity marked a profound transformation, proving art's unique power to translate urgency into action, turning grief into political will, and saving countless lives in the process. Today's art world flaunts glossy celebrity and sky-high prices, but the war of art reveals an ongoing tension between personal fame and collective activism. Take Jeff Koons or Damien Hirst, names that sell million-dollar sculptures faster than you can say gallery opening. Their art feels like a brand, a luxury product disconnected from social struggles. In sharp contrast, groups like ACT UP or the indigenous-led collectives prioritize community, shared stories, and systemic impact over personal headlines. This tension highlights a critical fault line. Is art about individual fame, or is it a tool for collective liberation? Philanthropy stepped into activism's arena as artists and supporters saw funding as a means to empower rather than merely patronize. Imagine it as turning a faucet from trickle to flood. Philanthropic dollars fueled grassroots projects, from supporting marginalized artists to sustaining protest spaces. This shift created infrastructure for activism that outlasted any one exhibition or viral moment, injecting longevity into urgent causes. The payoff is a redefined art ecosystem where solidarity trumps spectacle, where sustained community engagement reshapes policy, culture, and history. This isn't just idealism, it's practical power, proving that when artists unite beyond the spotlight, they build movements that can't be bought or ignored, changing America's fabric from the inside out. Remember that night outside the Whitney, when Benny Andrews and the BECC forced the art world to face itself. That wasn't just a protest. It was a spark setting off decades of creative resistance. From wheat-pasted walls to planted wheat fields, feminist canvases to AIDS billboards, Artists transformed their pain and passion into power. So here's what you try next. Look around your world and ask, where can your voice join a chorus? Because real art changes us not when it's admired quietly, but when it disrupts, demands, and dares us to act. Subscribe for more book summaries like this one.